Alright, so a couple of things about the current status of our P-47 project. We got the cowling on, and I've begun the process of removing the seam, the flange here that existed between the plastic and the balsa. And as you can see, I won't get the camera out of focus, but if you look at this line where it turns almost black, that's the glue line, essentially, or what you can see of a glue line, just at the perimeter of the plastic part there. So we're sanding to about as far in as we want to go here. You can see it's a little more pronounced here, that dark line. Now, a bit of that is also the paint, the dark gray that I applied, and you can see a little bit of oversplash of that here that was brushed on, not sprayed, but a little bit of. So, you know, part of it's that, but it's also the hardened wood glue there as we're sanding into that seam. So again, I don't want to go any deeper, and this is pretty close. Now, looking at it in the light and shadow here, you might be able to, you know, see things that look worse than they are. You know, there's definitely some areas to be filled yet, but I think for the most part, a lot of, at least when I look in the sunlight and using the shine as a reference, it looks a lot smoother than it does just under the light. So I don't know if the camera's picking that up at all or not. Oops. But you can see we're pretty good all the way around at this point. There's just a little bit here and there. And you can see the filler on the cowling on the plastic side here is where the plastic kind of is pressured outward a bit in order to wrap the fuselage. Hardly any on this side, but there is just a bit of an indentation on this side, and the filler is going to take care of that. It's just something to be aware of when you put plastic onto a wood structure, and then the wood is just slightly oversized or just a little bit large. You'll get this bowing in and then out where that joint is, and that's what we've got here. But again, not as much as I had feared there would be, or thought there would be, or was concerned that there would be. But there is something, so we have to make sure I have to make sure I spend extra time filling that, looking for that. So the other issue here is the tail wheel, and let's see if I get this in here the right way. We won't be putting any pressure on the headrest there. We're good. So I want the retractable wheels, and that includes the tail wheel. So I put this little lock and hook, and that's to lock the tail wheel down, and that way it won't just collapse. And then when we want to retract, it's just friction that'll hold the wheel in. Friction along with the pressure of the doors as they're closed. So, and this whole thing is just going to be manual operation. There's not going to be any gimmicks or tricks in how this is done. It's just going to be, you know, open the doors, pull the wheel out, push the wheel in, close the doors, kind of a thing. But I did want the wheel to have a definite down lock. The way they have engineered the wing main landing gear, there is a down lock there. I just have to take a hard look at how they have that laid out so that I can use that, possibly use that as a core, the wire that they're talking about as a core for my more realistic landing gear legs that I'm going to be putting on. So I'm thinking what I can do is follow their instruction and then just cut the wires, the stems of the wires where they come straight down, just cut them off about halfway, and then sleeve that with the aluminum tubing that I use to make scale landing gear legs. Also going to check and see if I can cut out the wheel wells deep enough to where I can widen the tires just a bit. The Guillow wheels are a bit skinny unless they have a pad in the middle. I just have to determine how much I can put in there, if I need to put any at all, or what I can get away with, as it were. But that's the wings. We're not to the wings yet. On this airplane now, at this point, we got the tail wheel kind of sorted out well enough, I think, that I'm happy with it. So it's time now to start working on the cockpit interior. Let's see if I can set this on here in such a way. There we go. So it's time for the cockpit interior, and that means the little black boxes. All the boxes have to go in. Get the boxes in, make a panel, and get that in there. The last two things to be installed will be the pilot and the pilot seat. But everything else can go in now, and then I can seal this up, probably with cardstock and tape. We'll just cut out a section of cardstock, slot it for the headrest, drop that over the top, and then just use a minimal amount of tape around the flanges here. Hold that in place, and that'll seal the cockpit. Okay, so we're getting there. Cockpit interior is next. We got lots of reference photos on the computer to use, and lots of scrap wood. We're basically going to be using all kinds of wood scraps here to create breaker boxes and throttle quadrants and oxygen regulators and all that stuff. And then I'll coil up some solder to use as the to replicate the oxygen hose material. Just wrap some tight coils around around something suitable and paint that kind of a rubber gray, and we'll have oxygen hose. Aside from that, I don't know. That's about it. I'll have to fabricate a gun sight, but we won't install that until the end, until right before the canopy goes on. So along with the pilot seat, and gun sight, those will all go into the canopy, or into the cockpit area rather, last. So all the other furniture has to go in now, though. That's next. Okay, so that's up to speed. You can see how our the front end turned out. Looks pretty good, I think. I hope. Time will tell. We'll get the rest of the airplane built up around what we've got here. We've got our forward vents and intercooler exhaust right there. Got the side vents mounted, the bottom ventral vent. And it's coming along. Got a decent looking representation of a Wasp R2800 twin row radial. Looking pretty good. I'm pretty happy with it. So onward. I'm still looking at different paint schemes, but most likely we're going to have the Hub Zemke airplane. It just remains to be seen how the rest of this goes. All right, thanks for watching. Everybody have a good night.